Hi guys, my name is Jaye and welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. In this podcast, I talk with creators about their art, their inspiration, and their process. My hope is that you will hear something that motivates or inspires you to follow your dreams and passions. Or maybe you will hear something that helps you with the things you're currently working on. In either case, sit back and tune in to a great conversation about music and life. Because it's time for a brand new episode which you do not want to miss.
All right, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. We have a very special guest on today, and we're going to get to explore one of my favorite genres, drum and bass. All right, my man, Tyrone, introduce yourself. What's your name? Where you from? What do you do?
Hi, my name's Tyrone. I'm a D&B artist, DJ, producer. I'm from Southampton, which is on the south coast of England. And I'm currently at university studying digital music as well.
Awesome, man. So how long have you been doing music for?
I've been into music since forever, since, everyone's into music from like a young age. I've been into music since I started playing drums from sort of like a young age to begin with. So I was sort of like that, that rocker guy. I used to like metal and things like that. And then I sort of slowly just transitioned into being sort of like a drum and bass artist. I sort of took it up as like a hobby to begin with. And then slowly it evolved from there. And I just got into drum and bass from the age of about 15, 16.
That's super cool. So drums were your first instrument. What got you into drums in the first place?
Well, my father was sort of like he was always in a band, and he was a drummer in a band. So it was sort of like when he passed away, I sort of took over playing drums and got really into it. And then it just sort of emerged from there when I sort of begin to get into like electronic music. And then it sort of evolved from there. I went from the drums to drum and bass, and that's what I took over. It was sort of me keeping his legacy, but then also doing my own thing. So
That's swag, bro. That's pretty cool. What kind of music did your dad do? I'm curious.
he was in it's sort of indie English rock, sort of like I'm trying to think of like a few sort of bands that he was into. From it was sort of like I'm trying to think of like English bands that maybe you would know, or the audience would know, but sort of
I think I have an idea of the sound, but yeah, like indie rock kind of stuff.
yeah, sort of like really old indie rock, sort of like moddy rock, sort of 70s, 80s, 90s, that sort of thing. But from the English background, so it was very like Cockney, Meat and Two Veg, that sort of stuff.
Very different from what you do.
Very different, yeah. So I've sort of gone like a completely different way to what it actually was. But it's weird that I've still got like the metal background and the rock background that I do like. So yeah, it's completely different direction.
It's still cool though. I mean, to give your own flavor to it. I was curious how much it's influenced your music making now. Growing up around like a father who does indie rock, and like the metal kind of scene.
Yeah. So everything I sort of take, anything as sort of like an influence, and I'm not just fixed down to like one genre. Like I like all sorts of genres. So obviously, drum and bass and sort of like metal and rock music are like sort of completely polar opposites. But because obviously it's like acoustic and electronic music, and a lot of people won't really put them together. They don't really put those together. But I sort of take everything that I possibly can, like any sort of influence, and I put my own spin on it, or try and I sort of take it as sort of like an experience of what I do, and sort of integrate it to what I am.
That's fantastic, man. I can really resonate with that because it's the same way for me. And I think one of the beauties about drum and bass is how versatile it is. Over the years, we've seen the genre kind of grow and expand into crossovers such as like drum and bass and jazz and liquid drum and bass, and there's like the neurofunk, It's a very versatile genre.
It's so versatile. Like I don't think you can get someone and say, oh yeah, do you like drum and bass? And they go, no, but I can guarantee you there's got to be something in drum and bass that they'll like, whether it's like the hard hitting stuff or the sort of jump up stuff or the liquid or jazz. There's always that. It's so versatile. Like you can literally put like a 170, 175, 180 BPM, and you can actually you can get anyone into it by just showing them the right song, because it's just so versatile. It's all over the spectrum.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And I remember when I first got into drum and bass, because I was kind of I didn't know much about the genre for my first, like, I don't know, 16, 17 years of my life. And so when I finally did find it, I was just mesmerized by like the speed of it, the intensity of it, the complexity of it. So it's a super exciting genre with the diversity that it has and just its own flavor. Let's jump back to whenever you first picked up drums. I was curious about how you learned drumming. What did you take classes? Was it YouTube tutorials, or how did you learn to get good at drumming?
I did take classes to begin with. It literally only went on for, because obviously where I got into like drum and bass when I was about sort of 14, 15. I sort of took up drums when I was about, I was about 12, 13. So it wasn't, I did learn drums and I knew what drums was, and I did take classes. I did take classes even at my school. They had like sort of like a drum program where you could learn. I think it was either trumpet or bass guitar or guitar, or then you could learn drums as well, or it's something like that. And I did learn drums from that, and it only took me for a few years, and then I started to like sort of evolve and then getting into electronic music and everything like that.
Right, exactly, man. And I'm curious because, like, you learned from playing on actual drum sets. Nowadays, do you do electronic drums, like digitally, or do you prefer to record drums like analog, I guess you would say?
I really do prefer using sort of like a drum synth or a drum machine or something like that, because I just like having full control over my drums. Like, whereas drum and bass, like the drums are so much like the backbone, like they're so important to the tune. Like, I like to have full control over the drums, so I like to manipulate every single aspect that I can possibly do with the drums, and that's sort of like the bread and butter for any sort of drum and bass artist, is having full control over the drums. Even though I do know people that do sort of use, they do use like a drums and they do record them in, and it's just for me. It's not really versatile enough. Like, it's sort of like a sample. Like, I don't really like to use samples either, like drum samples, even though I do use them, but I don't. That's not really the main thing that I like doing. I like making my own drums, because then you just have full control.
That's really interesting. I noticed just now you mentioned you don't like to use drum samples, and I think that a lot of producers do like to use drum samples, not necessarily just in drum and bass, in the lo-fi hip-hop community, EDM, etc. Do you like using other kinds of samples in your music?
Well, I do. Like I said, I do like you. I don't necessarily go to drum samples as much as I try and steer away from that, because I feel like my knowledge, I would get better knowledge if I try and make my own sounds rather than just keep using samples and then trying to get the mix down properly on the actual drums. Whereas I do use drum samples. I do, but sometimes I like to use a drum sample and then maybe use a drum machine and then put them together, so I've got my own unique sound. Whereas with like bass or anything like that, I always use like a sort of synthesizer. I do use samples, but not as much as most people that I know do.
No, exactly, man. And like I said, like I feel like sampling is very prevalent in the modern music industry, among producers at least. It's just very commonplace. So let's look a little bit at your inspirations, as I'm curious, because you got into drum and bass. What were the artists that kind of catapulted you into this world?
Well, the artists that I sort of grew up sort of listening to, like the first sort of artists that were in sort of like mainstream music sort of took my attention. So you've got like artists like Pendulum and Chasing Status and Sub Focus. Them sort of, I'd say they're around about sort of 2007, 2009, 2008, around there. That they were sort of, sort of getting into the sort of mainstream chart music. But it was sort of this first thing that you saw of drum and bass that actually made it into mainstream music. So it did catch a lot of people's attention. But other than that, I do like really old school like jungle and drum and bass from the likes of like Goldie, Dillinger, Reiki, Shy FX, Andy C, Shimon, them sort of, they're the pioneers of drum and bass that I take most inspiration from, because they were just the backbone of drum and bass a good sort of 20 years ago, when it was getting big, and around about the sort of early noughties.
Right, man. So many great artists you just listed just now, and I agree. I'm a fan of them as well. I was curious though, what was it about drum and bass that really captured your attention?
Just the energy. I mean, I like I like intense drum and bass, but I also like the liquid version as well. I'm not sort of the person to really like an individual subgenre of drum and bass. I think people like to latch too much on one subgenre. I like to embrace all drum and bass, because then I just feel like, I don't know, I just enjoy it so much. Like, I like the intensity, I like the rolling of it, I just like the flow of it. I think a lot of sort of music doesn't have, I don't know, it's a lifestyle for me, drum and bass. So again, like the people I used to hang around with when I was younger, and they sort of brought me into it, and now they don't even, they're sort of, they're parents now, and they've got kids and everything, and I'm just sort of here like enjoying drama. And I'm just like,
Right, man.
that's how life goes, isn't it? Well, I'm still playing at raves, and I'm still really into the music, and it sort of resonated with me more at that age, and I think that it did with a lot of my friends. And even though they're not really into sort of it now, I'm still here, and I love it so much. It's just such a lifestyle for me, and I just don't think I'll ever knock it. I've been into it for good almost 10 years now, and I can't see myself sort of shaking it off anytime soon.
Oh man, that's fabulous, man. I love that energy, and I think it's really interesting the kind of the contrast here because I'm living in the States, and over here in the States, like the drum and bass scene is pretty much restricted to the internet. I would say there's not a lot of like drum and bass community here here stateside. Whereas I feel like over in Europe, drum and bass is like a very big movement there.
Oh yeah, it's huge over in Europe. Obviously, it's originated from the UK. Like it's literally taken over any sort of rave or festival you go to. I know in the States, it's sort of, I think it's sort of EDM sort of situated and sort of trance and techno based. But I think over in the UK, it's all drum and bass situated. It's literally the leading underground movement in the UK, and I know it is in such countries like Czech Republic and Belgium as well. Like the underground sort of rave scene is driven by drum and bass, and it just shows you how much how much of a following drum and bass has, and how much it grips people, because it literally has just taken over the underground scene in so many different countries all over Europe.
And it's done that for so long. I feel like the drum and bass scene has been very relevant there for, what has it been, 20 years, maybe 30? Do you see like the drum and bass scene there in the UK dying out anytime soon?
Well, normally there's sort of like a thing where it's like a sort of spin cycle where you would see like a genre get big it's like a 10-year chart, and it basically shows you like all the Google searches for a particular genre. And it's obviously not a rule of thumb, but most of the time, like say if I use an example like dubstep was searched for so much in like the years of like 2012 and 13, and then over the years it's sort of depleted, and it's slowly gone down as the years went. And basically what happens is it normally goes mainstream, then it sort of breaks up into loads of different subgenres, people start to rebel against it, and then it starts to go underground. And that does happen with like that does happen with a few sort of genres of music. I know obviously dubstep is still massive in the States, but I think it was a lot bigger than it was sort of like a good sort of 5-6 years ago. And I can't really see, I would like to say that I hope that doesn't happen with drum and bass, but it's gotten bigger and bigger over the past sort of 10 years than I think it ever has been. Than it used to be. But it's always been in the rave culture, and I think it's always there, and I think it's there to stay, and especially in the UK. It's sort of like, because it's born and bred, I think it's there to stay. I think people are proud enough to say that it's from their country, and it's sort of like patriotic. They like to show it off. So I don't think it will sort of deplete anytime soon. I think it was, well, I hope for my sake anyway.
Right, man. I second your opinion, actually. I honestly don't see it going anywhere. And even if it did, I feel like it would come back around
Oh
eventually.
well, yeah, I was just saying that's what most music, sort of genres do. They sort of, there's only so many notes and so many sort of different styles of music. Then they all come back around eventually.
Right, precisely. And it was interesting you spoke about dubstep and how it was huge there in 2012, 2013, kind of died down a little bit. It was interesting. I was talking to another guy from the UK who were here on the podcast, and he mentioned that one of his friends is a dubstep artist. They had been doing a performance, and the crowd was just completely mute for the dubstep set, and I thought it was really interesting. Tell us a little bit about like the dubstep scene there in the UK and how it's what's the current state, if you have any insight on that.
Oh yeah, I can tell you now. Well, it's basically what I said. It was. I remember it being like back when I started. When I started early raving, sort of like 2011, 2012. I can remember it being like there was just like a massive surge, and it was just absolutely massive for about sort of 2 3 years, and then I remember it sort of like died down. And I can't like I can tell you now that I don't. There's no like raves or festivals that are situated like dubstep. They don't have like a dubstep stage. There's no sort of dubstep only raves. You may see like a few artists playing at like a specific festival or anything, but it's not really, people aren't really orientated around dubstep anymore, especially in the UK anyway. It's literally just sort of, I don't know, it's just died out. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just, I don't know if people got bored of it. I don't know what it is. It's just the interest in dubstep scene is just gone, especially in the UK anyway.
Right, man. It's kind of interesting to me. I wonder if it's going to come back around like within the next 5 to 10 years, or what will play out. Let's look a little bit about at other electronic genres. What are some other genres in the electronic sphere that you enjoy?
Well, I really enjoy techno, just sort of like thump and tempo, sort of like drum code stuff. I really enjoy. I also enjoy a lot of psytrance and a lot of minimal stuff as well. But mainly, it is mainly drum and bass, sort of techno and psytrance, which I know I don't really know anyone. I don't think I've met actually anyone at all that I've been really into actual and psytrance and drum and bass at the same time. But I don't know. I just like so many different aspects of all different types of genres. I just sort of lean to like one quirky genre over another, and I just.
Right, man. That's cool though. So we're talking about the different genres and everything, and from your standpoint as a drum and bass producer and creator, what are some genres you want to cross over into?
I would like to cross over into minimal techno. I think if I was to create like a second alias and I was to explore a different genre, a different field of music entirely, I think it would be minimal techno or minimal prog, which is sort of like it's techno, but it's very hard hitting. There's like loads of kicks and there's a lot of sub bass in there. It's very full on, very intense. It's very dark as well, and it can be it's sort of like a scary genre. Like it's a very it's something that you'll have like a very dim lit room for, very big sound system, and it's just it resonates with me quite a lot, as much as drum and bass as well, and I do really enjoy that. So if I was to branch off into anything else, I think minimal techno or minimal prog. I think that would be the genre for me, other than drum and bass.
That would be super cool to see you go into that field. And I love how you described it as a dark genre. I can resonate with that. Like I relate to that. I love music that has like that kind of dark undertone. I think that's one of the things that draws me to certain drum and bass music, is that it kind of has that scary undertone. You know, it's like almost like watching a thriller film. So I love that. I was curious, what are some of your favorite crossovers you've seen take place in the drum and bass community?
Well, I haven't seen the other thing that people are a lot of another big underground music in the rave scene now is also bassline, and I've seen a few drum and bass artists move over into like the bassline scene, and it's basically garage, but it's just a bit more intense. Just there's a lot more bass going on. It's sort of like it's sort of sped up house with like some grimy sort of bass line over the top. I'm not really a fan of it, but I know a lot of people. Bassline, they do have drum and bass and bassline raves and festivals. They sort of do go hand in hand. I don't really see why, but it's just something that sort of took over the past sort of few years. I think it's only been a good 2 or 3 years that bass line has got big, and it's something that a lot of ravers sort of like, because it's got that influence from like grime music and house and garage as well, and it's sort of like a merged sort of baby from that, and a lot of people do like it, and I'm not really a fan of it because it's just I don't know, it just doesn't really resonate with me as much as drum and bass, and I don't really know why. It sort of goes into drum and bass raves, and it's not a massive thing, but a lot of people do like it, and a lot of drum and bass artists do have like a second alias, and they'll go into bass line as well.
Gotcha. That's interesting, man. Yeah, and I know that grime has been another genre that's blown up the last, 3 to 5 years there in the UK, and even internationally as well. There's been a lot of grime artists that have really taken the world stage. I'm interested, what artist you would like to collab with?
Oh, that's a harder.
It's kind of a big question, yeah.
Well, anyone across the drum and bass spectrum.
Yeah, it could be just anybody at all, man. Whether it's a rock artist or a drum and bass artist, yeah, up to you.
I'm trying to think of like a really good drum and bass artist that I would just love.
Let's choose your top 3, man. Let's do your top 3 favorite artists to collab with.
I would say that I'd love to collab with Goldie, because he's just like he's the pinnacle of any. When you think of drum and bass, English drum and bass, he's just there at the top. And I think like as much as that I would collab with him, I would learn so much from him, and so much from his like personality and how he talks about the scene, which I do see a lot in these things. That's something that I would really like to sort of pick his brain and get an understanding from his point of view, because he's just the biggest pioneer of the whole drum and bass genre, and I think he would be the one that I would love so much to actually just not even just like interview, just talk to, and just get sort of like a feeling of what he does in the studio.
Love that. So number 1's Goldie. What about the other 2?
Someone who I like quite recently, sort of like burst in the scene within the past year, is Benny L, and he does a lot of heavy bass lines, but it's the bass lines are like ridiculously heavy. Like they're not so much like neurofunk or anything that's just sort of rolly with just sort of like a noisia sort of thing. It's sort of like the opposite with that, and he just got his bass lines are just so distorted, and they're so big and fat, and they just literally take up like a whole venue when they're played out. And I think another artist that I would like to actually collab with and like to get an insight of what he actually does in the studio would be Benny.
That sounds massive, man. I haven't actually listened to Benny L's music, so I'm going to look it up later on because it sounds quite enthralling.
Music break, guys. This one goes hard. It's TYTAN song, Revelation. Enjoy.
But generally, you think what you hear on the radio is terrible.
I think basically it's product. And the reason why it is being manufactured is basically just to make money. And it seems to me to have very little to do with the basic reasons for making music in the first place.
But generally, you think what
money, and it seems to me to have very little to do with the basic reason for making music in the first place.
So we're talking a lot about like the artists that you want to collab with, that you work with and everything. I want to flip this over and look a little bit at your vision for your music. What do you think do you want to do music long term?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like my sort of mentality with music is you either go big or you don't, you go home. It's either you do everything in your power to sort of contribute to the music scene and get your artistic vision over to the crowd and over to the drum and bass scene, or there's no point doing it. Like I got into drum and bass saying to myself that I was gonna, sort of get out there and get to it as far as I possibly could, and that's literally what I'm gonna do. There's no sort of holding back for me. Like sort of 3 years ago, I said to myself that I'll never go to uni. I just sort of did drum and bass as sort of like a hobby, started mixing, and then started, just dabbling on in a DAW and just having a look, see what sounds I can sort of create. And then all of a sudden I realized that it wasn't a hobby and it's something that I wanted to do full time, and I wanted to make a living off it. So basically I won't stop until however long it takes till I'm actually where I want to be in the music career.
It's massive energy, man. I can feel your passion for it. Let's look a little bit about like how it's unfolding for you so far. How well do you think you're doing at turning music into a career for yourself? How well do you think you're doing at that?
Well, I sort of look at myself and say, whenever I feel doubtful or whenever I think, I may not be going quite at the speed I want to go or the direction I want to go, I always look back at just a couple of years ago and where I was, and how far I would actually be. Like I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I would have killed to be on like a specific radio show that I'd been grown up watching, and I managed to do it. I dreamed about being on a stage in like another country, and I managed to do it in front of so many in front of. I always look back and think, wow, like I've actually. If I stopped doing it today, like, I'd be happy where I actually got to. But then it just sort of pushes me on. I'm just like, no, right, let's get further. Let's just keep going forwards. And that's what drives me. Is just looking back to see how far I've come, and then it's just sort of music into the field, and I just love it too much.
Man, that's fantastic, and it's really cool. Like the steps you've taken for your career. A lot of people who listen to the podcast are also trying to make their way in the music scene. What's some advice you would have for people trying to make it as a musician?
It's to never give up, really. It's just to always make sure you're doing something. Always keep yourself busy. Always make sure you're talking to other people. Always make sure that you're giving sort of positivity and enthusiasm to other people's music as well. Because if you watch other people's back, they watch your back. And not only that, it's sort of like a calmer mentality. If you understand, it's sort of if you give positivity and you have a right attitude about it and a positive attitude, then the energy comes back and it pushes you forward.
Dude, I really agree with that, and it's so true, especially with the rise of the internet and the way it's played into the music scene. I mean, with the rise in things like YouTube channels that curate music and the community that's kind of built. Same way for every single artist or producer I've met and worked with, we're all looking for the same dream, and there's really just no room for selfishness there because, we all want to make it, and so we're all just kind of looking out for each other. I think that's really one of the cool things about the music industry is how collaborative it is. And I wanted to jump and look at this side topic because you mentioned like how you got to surround yourself with positivity. In recent times, mental health is like a huge topic, and I mean even more so for people in the art community because of like the impact it can have on the creative process. I was curious, do you struggle with anything like depression or anxiety?
I used to, but a long time ago. I think with things like mental health, it's sort of like it's not like a niche thing that one person has, like, in like 10 people. It's basically everybody has like depression and anxiety, and they always go through a certain period of time where it's the most strongest, and it's all just a mindset. And if you give yourself something like a goal or something to work for in your life, it does sort of, in my personal opinion anyway, it sort of begins to sort of, you begin to shed the skin of depression, anxiety, and you manage to move forward. Like, I had it a long time ago, and I managed to sort of shake it and then look back and just think, wow, all it is just a mindset. If I give myself, most people that do suffer it is because they sort of feel like they're not happy in their lives, or something like they're not going the place that they want to be. And I just feel like you do need to have a certain mindset to sort of push yourself. You need goals, and you need to plan where you want to be in your life and how you're going to do it. And that's what I feel in sort of mental health. I think everyone does go through it at a certain point. I don't think it's just what one person has it and then they don't have it. A lot of people do have it, and a lot of people do suffer it. And you just need to keep yourself positive. You need good people around you, and you need to strive for something that you believe in.
Man, thank you so much for those words. I mean, I think that's really important for the audience to hear because so long, like, it's been stigmatized. And like you said, like, people used to think 1 in 10 people had it or 1 in 100 people have it. It's not true. Like, everybody struggles with this at some point, and it's just the more people I talk to, the more I see that's true. I can't think of a single person I've met that hasn't told me, I struggle with depression, I have anxiety, I have this and that. And so it's true. Everybody deals with that at some point in their life. And like you said, I mean, it's a mindset, it's daily practice, it's daily steps to improve, and to get to where you want to be mentally and physically, etc. I'm curious because you do a whole lot of live shows and you do performances and stuff. Do you ever get stage fright?
Oh, every time, whether it's doing sort of like a massive show. Well, there's been I don't know, it's a strange one. Like, I like to say all the time, but sometimes I get it worse more than others. Like, when I've been abroad like 3 times this year, playing out, and every time I got nervous. Like, I got a few butterflies, but I weren't massively like heaps of nerves, like a shaking wreck before I went on, but sweating one out. But when I was, but there's certain shows that I just do get really nervous for, and I don't really know why. I just think it's sort of like just how you wake up on the day and how it is. But it does happen every single show, no matter what I do play. But it's just sometimes more than others, and it's normally like the little shows. It's like the little sets that I normally do, just with a smaller capacity. I just feel like it's more intimate, and I do think it's more critical. People could be more critical because it is a smaller sort of venue. I think I do get more nervous on sort of like a smaller stage, but I think because I get too excited when I go up on the big stage that there's just no room for nerves. I just want to go out there and have fun.
Dude, that's really cool. And I was going to ask, like, how you deal with like the stage fright or the nervousness. What are the steps you take to kind of combat that?
I'd say a couple of drinks normally settles the nerves. I'd say 1 or 2 drinks, not enough that it's gonna make you so drunk that you're not going to be able to actually mix or anything like that. But just 1 or 2 drinks I normally have just to sort of calm my nerves, make me give myself some Dutch courage. And that's what normally sees me through.
All right, man, fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about your performances and such, because I know that's a big part of your career. What kind of prep goes into making a show?
Well, there's a lot of promo involved. There's a lot of there's a lot. Again, it's a lot of talking to people, and it's a lot of sort of conversing and networking, and make sure you're getting out there and you make sure you're playing regularly. But again, if you're doing really good work and you're promoting stuff and you're turning heads as well, then you know your own artist promotes itself, and people are gonna know who you are and what they're there to see. And normally, most of the time, as you get to a certain stage where your image just promotes itself, and that's what you need to get to at the end of the day. So you put in the hard work, and then the hard work sort of looks after you in the long run.
Gotcha, man. And then just a frame of reference for the audience, if you could give us like a range of numbers, like how many live shows would you estimate that you've done before?
This year, I don't know. I normally try and get out and play a set, and maybe once or twice a month for a year. So this year has been probably my busiest year. So that's what I've got. I'm grateful for that as well, because before this year I'd never played like abroad, and this year I played like abroad 3 times. So I'm really thankful for that. And so I'd say again this year I've probably played out about 16 to 20 times around.
All right, fantastic, man. Yeah, and I wanted the audience to hear that, because I know that for artists, it's really important to tour and to do performances. I mean, it's just a very vital part of like building your career as a musician. And so you mentioned today about performing abroad. I'm really curious about that. Where were the countries that you performed in?
I played twice in Spain. I played out in Bass Invasion Festival, which is sort of like a multi-subgenre drum and bass festival over there, which I played in May, I believe, and in March beforehand I played out in Amsterdam. I believe that's for an innovation festival, which I'm very grateful for. They're like, it's such a good festival over there. And then I came back and played for innovation again on I believe it was in Barcelona. So it was in Barcelona as well. And that was, I forgot what club that was. Yeah, that was for Innovation in the Sun 2018. So
Man, that's crazy rad. I love that. And I'm curious, like, how would the crowds different from the crowds you play there in Southampton or your area?
it's very strange. So the first two abroad, the innovation events are normally English holidaymakers. So they obviously buy the tickets from England, and then they jet out there with everyone else, and then it's a very big festival. And with the Bass Invasion Festival, it was really fun. Like they had so much energy that I didn't really expect, because obviously when you go to another country, it's hard unless it's one that's really well known. Like obviously Czech Republic's well known for having good drum and bass crowds, and so is Belgium and Germany and things like that, and Austria as well. And for Spain, I knew obviously they people would want to go see the artist, because obviously it was drum and bass festival. I just wondered like how strong drum and bass was in actual Spain, and it was really good to actually see like a lot of people dancing, a lot of people having fun, and it was really good, man, really good.
Man, that's super cool. It's just so interesting to hear, and I think it's such a great opportunity to be able to travel abroad, and play some dope music. I'm interested about, how do you control the atmosphere? Like, what kind of thought process goes into the sets that you spin?
Well, I normally see when I sort of DJ, I like to sort of see it as see it as sort of like a journey. So I like to take people like on an experience for a journey. So that's why I like to. I don't stick to one subgenre. I'm not just heavy all the way through. I'm not just liquid all the way through. I like to take people through like a series, like I like to describe it as a journey, because I like to bring them into all different sorts of vibes and energies. I like to lay down some heavy stuff, and then maybe go into a little bit of liquid, and then I like to see how the set evolves. And then sometimes it's planned, sometimes it's not planned. I just like to see. I like to analyze what the crowd is doing, because that's another thing you got to do if you're a DJ. You've got to analyze what's good and what's not. So 50% of the time I'll be jumping all around the place with my hands in the air and going, ooh. The other 50% of the time I'm analysing and seeing how the crowd is reacting to the music I'm playing. And maybe if they're reacting well to it, maybe I'll play a little bit more and sort of evolve it into that sort of category of subgenre and then maybe move on to another one. But I just like to be versatile. I like to mix it up. I like to do things that people are going to remember.
Wow, that's really cool. So essentially, you might go in with a set list, but then the set list might change as the crowd reacts, a certain way.
Yeah. So sometimes it's just down to my mood. Sometimes I'll go in with sort of like a certain mood, and then my complete sort of set plan that I sort of planned out, I'd sort of just chuck it away and sort of brush it to the side and go, actually, no, I'll do something like this because this is just what I'm feeling.
Man, that's so cool. I think that's really awesome, and that's definitely the best way to do a live show because, I mean, like you said, it's personalized, and so the whole experience becomes, more personal and more memorable. Speaking of that, what is one of your best memories at a live show?
I gotta say, it's probably the Vegas invasion this year that I've just done because it was just so many people and it was just so chaotic, and the system was really good. The vibes were just so high, and it was just so much energy and intensity, and it's just something that you capture the moment and you sort of just store it away, and you're just like, that's what being a DJ is about, and that's something I just want to relive, like every single time I DJ or perform, or I want to play my music out and I want people to react the same way. I just sort of captured that moment and just thought that's something I want to do for the rest of my life, because I just want to be on the receiving end of this amount of energy of all these people just going just like one specific tune or for the whole set. I just want to capture everything and just relive it just constantly.
Oh man, that's incredible, man. I can just envision like the energy of the crowd at that moment. It really is cool. Even just watching performances from YouTube, like you can kind of get a feel for what it's like. Have you ever gone to live concerts, and if so, like what are your favorite performances that you've seen?
Any live concerts? I've been to a few concerts. I've seen like an actual Chasing Status sort of live set in the past as well, in related to sort of like drum and bass, and that was really fun. That was really good to actually see like sort of like a live band actually like imitating the song. But I've also in that I've been to a lot of like Slipknot concerts, and I've been to a lot of Slayer concerts as well, and it's just like even that energy is something that you don't forget, and that's what I like, because when you go to things like that, and it's like it's not even like a specific genre of music, it's just like the type of music that makes people just like give so much energy back, and it's just something that's it really sticks with me, and it has done for a long time. It's because it's just something that you don't forget at all. At any live show or at any set or any concert you go to, it's just like the feedback that you get from the crowd. It's just something you don't really get anywhere else in life, let alone
Right, man, that really makes sense.
Time for some more wicked vibes from Titan. This song is entitled 6 Hours.
Speaking of this, I was wondering if you could contrast for us real quick the differences between being a DJ and production.
Being a DJ is playing other people's tunes out, you can do it entirely of their other tunes, or you can do your own tunes, but it's just playing your music or other people's music out to reflect of what you like and who you are. Whereas production is you're making music to portray who you are, and your artistic integrity is being produced through music that you are hand making. But DJing is just either playing the music out or playing, again, someone else's music out that you really enjoy, and again, that the crowd really enjoys.
Right. And so, given that, what are the positive and negatives for yourself as a producer and a DJ?
Negatives, probably, I don't really get a lot of free time. It's something that's is 24/7. Like you've got to be quite, when you're producing, you've got to be quite an introvert. Like, I know people that literally that are really good producers, but they don't make tunes because they can't sit down in front of a computer for hours on end a day and make music. They're quite social people. They got to go out, they got to live their lives, and again, that's something that I don't really have a problem with, that because I can sit down in front of a computer all day. But you do have to be quite an introvert to sort of really put so many man hours into making music. Whereas with sort of DJing, it's just sort of, you're just feeling the flow, so you can just sort of have like an hour mix a day, or just sort of practice and have an hour, or just or hang out with friends and do it that way, or other DJs. But I suppose you could do that with collabs when you're actually producing. But again, producing is just so many man hours you've got to put into actually just living up your knowledge and sort of just really finding the knowledge to actually put what your artistic vision down on like paper.
Fantastic insight, man. And I want to talk a little bit about your production process. How do you start to make a song? Like, what's the initiative to start making a song?
I normally start with every tune. There's two ways that I normally start. The main method that I normally go about is with the drums. So like, whereas it's the backbone of any drum and bass tune is the drums. So I normally start with the drums, get them sounding nice, get them sounding the way that I want to sound, and then I'll start working on something like the melodies or the bass. Then I'll start working on that. But sometimes I just start with the melody. Sometimes I like a good intro, I like a good catchy melody, and then sometimes I start with the melody, but then I feel like it's harder to sort of morph them into the drums, because again, like I said, it's all about the drums. But sometimes I start with, they're the two ways I normally start a track.
Exactly, yeah. And of course, like the drums, like you said, is so important for a song. What about like the inspiration? Do you just create at any time you feel like, or is there more of like something that, is like you watch a movie and you're like, oh, I want to make a song?
It's normally like the inspiration that I normally get is from, like I said earlier, I normally sort of analyze the crowd and realize what they like, or what music or drum and bass in 2018, what people like, and then I sort of try and look into the future, and I try and make tunes that I predict this sort of marketplace for drum and bass will actually be. But I also, when I sometimes when you're making a track, sometimes it can take sort of 2 days. Sometimes you can bust a track out in sort of 2 days over a weekend, and sometimes that it takes 2 months. Again, inspiration is like so hard to come by, but I normally start with, if I'm sort of sat somewhere, or I'm in my house, or I'm eating or whatever, and I just get this sort of excited feeling. That's what triggers me, and I'm like, yeah, right, okay, I want to make a chant. Like, I'm excited. I don't really if I'm in a bad mood, I won't start a track, because I know that I'll be over-analysing all the mix down like really quickly, and it will be a negative mindset I don't be in. So I normally, when I'm in a good mood, I'm excited, I'm getting, I sort of get really excited to actually start making a track, or I just get an urge that I want to go and make music. That's when I'll make music. That's where I'll just sort of sit myself down, and I normally sort of make sure I completely, like I said earlier about being an introvert, I completely shut off myself from like the outside world. I normally turn all the lights off, so it's just me and like sort of like a computer screen, speakers, and a keyboard, and I normally do it that way because I just feel like I need to be completely immersed in what I'm doing, and that way the best things and the best sounds are going to.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because you're both a producer and a DJ, and you mentioned that you take information from your live stages, you'll see what the crowd's responding to, and then you go to the studio and kind of create something in that vein. Sometimes. I think that's interesting. A lot of people say that would, I feel like a lot of people have the perception that's not a good thing in terms of like making music for other people. Although for yourself, you see it as an okay thing.
But yeah, see, if you were, I'm not sort of making it for other people. It's still my own artistic vision that I'm sort of portraying through my production. But I sort of leave because the way it happens is the way the crowd makes me feel. It's not me sort of looking at the crowd and going like, all right, that guy on the front row really likes it. I'm going to make it for him. So it doesn't really work. It just works the case that I get such like a good energy from it. It inspires me to go and replicate something similar, but with my own spin on it.
That's great, man. Yeah, I wanted to give you a platform to talk about that because everybody, has different creative processes, and I really don't think there's anything wrong with however people make music, but it is interesting to see the different, approaches and different perspectives and the different, ways that they go into it. Real quick, I want to jump over and look at like the promo side of music because I know the business side of music is really huge. A lot of producers and artists I've talked to always say that music is 30% music creation and 70% music promotion. Would you agree with that?
Well, definitely. It's all about sort of marketing yourself as a brand, and the people that end up doing that really, really, really well are the ones that get really far in the music industry. And it's something that's quite sad, but at the same time, it's all about just sort of evolving to the sort of current state and the current social media aspect, and branding yourself as an artist so that people can catch on and sort of recognize your logo or recognize your bass shots that you're using in your production. It's all about sort of marketing and making yourself look good. That is going to get you sort of like a better result, whilst that also having good music behind you to sort of drive that.
Right, man, exactly. And I was curious, how much social media and social promotion do you do digitally?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I normally lean towards Instagram now. I used to be really big on Facebook, but again, Facebook is sort of like, Facebook is for your friends. Like, it's not for like the outer public. If you want to reach, but I feel like Instagram has just got such a bigger reach where people can actually come and visit your profile and see what you're doing, see who you are as a person, reflected through, saying like music clips or pictures of your live shows or your live sets. And I feel like Instagram's just such like an important thing for me because I feel like it gives you a visual interpretation of what I'm about.
Right, man, exactly. And I think that arguably Instagram is probably the largest social media of right now, disregarding the user count and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like Instagram really has the attention of the majority of the population. Is there any other projects you're looking at doing online with your social promotion? Launching like a YouTube channel or something like this?
I have think about it, but again, it's sort of something that I'd have to look at like further down the line. I've got so many like projects and things that I've got going on at the moment that I just need to sort of focus with and sort of try not to get too wrapped up in sort of like the whole social media game, because I don't know, I don't really want it to consume me so much. I just want to sort of keep my artistic integrity whilst also pushing myself moderately as sort of like an artist on things like Instagram. But also now I've got I'm involved with Indigenous Festival as well, which I've been running for the past couple of years. So again, I'm trying to push myself, trying to push that as well, and again, trying to push like any brands or anything that I'm involved in. It just takes, and trying to make music as well, it just takes up so much time.
Yeah, man, for real. Are you associated with any management groups or record labels?
Yeah, I'm sort of associated with Noxious Records at the moment, which I had a tune out earlier this year called Hydrogen, which was on there, which was released. And That's basically mostly that I've been involved with at the moment.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the festival that you do, the Indigenous Festival. Go ahead, tell us like what that is and talk to us a bit about it.
So basically what that is it's a multi-genre festival situated in Hampshire, down in the UK. And it's basically it just sort of like it's nothing really big. It's not, we don't pay so much money for artists to sort of come down, big artists to come down and play. We've only got an audience of around about 500 to 1,000 people that come on site. It's majorly underground, and we normally give it as for a chance for up and coming DJs and producers to come and showcase who they are and what their music is about.
That's really cool. How long have you been doing this this project?
We've been doing it since 2015. So this will be. We did take a year out last year, but that was just to help preserve the grounds that we were having the festival on. But this year we are rebooting it. Next year we are going to reboot it, and it's going to be a third year.
Fantastic, man. Super exciting. And real quick, go ahead and give some promo, like what genres are going to be there?
So we're going to have, it's mainly psychedelic music. We also have drum and bass there as well, jungle, techno, house, tech house, more of those sort of festivals, reggae as well, that we like to sort of showcase. And it's basically sort of like a chill festival, so people can pay less money, they can come and have fun, and come and see some either local DJs or just underground DJs just playing music. And again, it's all about the decor, it's all about the vibe, and it's just a good way to let off some steam midway through the year. And it's fun doing it, it's fun promoting it, it's fun building it. It's a really good festival. I really enjoy doing it.
Man, that sounds incredibly cool. Anybody who's in the area that's listening, I really encourage you to go check it out. I would love to see it someday. All right, so Tyrone, I want to move into two more questions here before we kind of wrap it up. You're doing a whole lot. You've been working really hard with your music, with the festivals and performances, everything. What are some of the changes and improvements you want to see in your career over the next year or two?
Basically, I'd like to still keep doing what I'm doing. I feel like of me sort of retaining knowledge over the sort of past years. I think I've been going at a good pace. I haven't been. A lot of people I know do take sort of breaks in their production learning, and because it's just a lot, and I never felt the need to do that. I've just always been 100% full on, and just made sure that I'm learning as much as possible. I would really like to sort of push myself further and try and get sort of like a few more EPs out there, and just spread my music a bit more.
Awesome. And then one more question. What is the impact you want to make with your artistry and your music?
Well, with that, again, it's just, I would be happy if I could just make the biggest ripple in drum and bass as I possibly can. Like, I won't stop until I'll just keep pushing and just keep getting as far as possibly can, because I wouldn't be happy with anything less than that. And I'm just going to try and get myself out there as much as possible and try and give my energy to the scene and try and push it that way.
That is fantastic, man. Just a recyclable like energy that you give, and then people get from your music and give back to you. I love that. I love that kind of community that you're looking to create. All right, so with the guests that come on the show, we always do one last segment where it's like a spitfire kind of round. I ask some questions, and you give a fast answer, and it would just last for just like a minute. Are you ready to go?
Yep.
All right, man. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. What is your favorite food?
Favorite food? I'm veggie, so I do like just anything with sort of like corn stuff.
All right. What is your favorite weekend activity?
Playing out. Wouldn't be anything else but.
All right. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
What countries do you want to visit?
I would like to visit Canada and Japan.
And what languages do you speak?
English. I don't speak anything else.
All right, and that is it, man. All right, guys, this was an incredible conversation. Again, his name is TYTAN. He does drum and bass music. He does DJing, performances. He's all over the place. TYTAN, I want to thank you for coming on, man. Is there any last words you want to send to the audience, to people listening?
Cheers, bro. No, that's good, man. Just thanks for listening and everything, all right?
All right, awesome. All right, audience, I'm going to give you guys links to his stuff. I encourage you to check it out. Please support him as he continues to rise and give the scene energy. We will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.